So you mean to tell me Oklahoma State convinced the top offensive lineman to recommit, and then they go get a 6'4", 490-pound wide receiver without having a new coach on staff yet? I thought this was supposed to be impossible. Or perhaps the home state recruiting methodology still matters.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, our Big 12 brethren? Shout out to all the regulators out here. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more. Special right now, when new customers can bet just $5. If your bet's a winner, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use all across the app. Make sure that you go download the FanDuel app today. Meanwhile, we get to slide into this commitment conversation for Oklahoma State. Shout out to Owasso High School. Julius Wilson is now committed to be an Oklahoma State Cowboy. The 6'4", 490-pound wide receiver out of Owasso has made this announcement just after Oklahoma State got a recommitment from the in-state top offensive lineman, Aiden Martin. And realistically, there's been a ton of conversation in regards to how Oklahoma State's not going to get a lot of commitments until they hire the new coach and they make it publicly announced and they get out on the recruiting trail, which a lot of that does make a lot of sense. However, I do think that this accentuates the fact that, yes, Carter Langendorfer, also of Owasso High School, decommitted, as did Tajh Overton. Tajh Overton recently, in the last week, committed to Mizzou, but I do think that Julius Wilson opens up an avenue. That means I don't think we're out on Carter Langendorfer. I definitely still don't think we're out on Tajh Overton. Why? Because he waited. He didn't immediately turn around and commit elsewhere and get a big payday. He gave it some time. He allowed other places to recruit him. He allowed Oklahoma State to at least put the feelers out of who could be the next head coach. And so I do think that when you get a Owasso dude and you open up the doors for Carter Langendorfer to come back in, perhaps that reopens the door once again for Tajh Overton. And I don't think that we'd be completely out of the woods with Katie Batman Jones. However, out of all of the individuals who've decided to decommit, him and Tajh Overton are the only ones that have committed elsewhere. And Tajh Overton, again, at least waited several weeks and games before he decided to make this new decision. Julius Wilson, congratulations. And I tell you, he has been severely underrated because he just went through a very big growth spurt. I couldn't see exactly inches-wise, but I can tell you a couple years ago, he was classified as a point guard and a small slot receiver. Now he's 6'4". He's a small forward for Owasso High School basketball, and he's obviously going to be an outside wide receiver, which he's going to project likely to an outside wide receiver at the next level. When you look at what Julius has been able to accomplish, he's got 453 yards at 15.1 yards per completion. He's already been able to haul in 7 TDs, and I think that the basketball side of things just kind of accentuate his athleticism. And ironically, if you go look at the highlight film, it kind of adds to his mystique, because the beginning of the highlights, he's in a lot of press coverage because nobody really knew who he was. As the highlights progress, he's no longer getting press man coverage. They're giving him like a 12 to 10 yard cushion. And then even more so as the highlights progress, by the end of it, he's getting double, triple teamed. So I think Julius Wilson has just barely scratched the surface of what he could become. And his style of catching almost kind of corners him into a possessions wide receiver box. But again, if you click on the highlights, he is absolutely running away from dudes. And this is Owasso, right? So you're going to play the Jinx and the Unions and the Broken Arrows and the Bixbys of the world. And he is absolutely dusting those individuals. I love the fact that we've got guys like Aiden Martin and Braden Presley and now Julius Wilson to accentuate the home aspect of this recruiting class. This is the first year ever that we absolutely dominated. We drug OU through the mud in recruiting the state of Oklahoma. And I know, because I've seen it in the comments, there's OU fans that don't like when I say that, but it's very visible that when it came to in-state recruits, Oklahoma State was beating OU like a redheaded stepchild, and it wasn't even close. Now that Mike Gundy's gone, yeah, we've lost some dudes. But again, a lot of those individuals that decommitted haven't committed elsewhere, which leads us to believe that they're still holding out hope that Oklahoma State is going to rebound and they're going to hire a name that gives at least enough confidence in that decision-making process. And I love the fact that now if you've got Aiden Martin, now you've got Julius Wilson on board, it probably adds some credence to the idea that Oklahoma State is kind of narrowing its list and we're probably close to making a decision. Even if it's not going to be an Alex Golesh, I think we could easily get pumped for an Eric Morris. We could still get pumped for a Zach Robinson. We could still, look out to potentially a Silverfield. Evidently, though, he seems to be taking his talents elsewhere. Nonetheless, I love the fact that Oklahoma State is going with guys who want to be part of the program. Naturally, the new coach is going to be important. The new staff and what they do in recruiting is going to matter. But at the end of the day, some of these individuals have decided that what they get out of Oklahoma State, what they can get in Stillwater America is going to be beneficial, even if we have a slightly unknown coaching situation at the moment. And that's what I absolutely love. Yes, we're going to have enough NIL to go and get a bunch of talent, which we're about to discuss some NIL fake news in regards to Oklahoma State. But even more so than that, you have to have some of the home dudes. If you can get guys from Oklahoma, they're typically going to do a little bit more, try a little bit harder because there is a raised investment level, because they grew up with it in their backyard. They grew up with the ascension of Oklahoma State, yes, under Mike Gundy. And they also understand, because there's conversations happening with Chad Weiberg, talking to a lot of these decommitments about the plan moving forward. So yes, we're getting guys recommitted and new commits, even without having coaches, because of the conversations that are being had outside of Stillwater America. I love the fact that people are committing, even though we don't have a coach, even though the situation is very kind of crazy at the moment. You got to have this. We have to go attract the top talent, but we also have to keep the top talent in the state of Oklahoma. Forever and a day, we got the scraps from OU and Texas. This is the first class that we were not getting that. In the state of Oklahoma, we were absolutely owning everybody. And I think this shows that we're not done yet. This class for the state of Oklahoma is not done yet. I really firmly believe that all of the decommitments, there's only one that we really have to fear that isn't going to come back into the fold. It's a good place to be, in my opinion. Supply House is where you need to go for the next repair that you have. You need to get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see the parts on your doorstep as early as tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects into the future, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side protected. If you need parts for a project fast, Supply House has next-day delivery. The Parts Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail does matter. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process even smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That is SHCollege5 for 5% off. Head on over to supplyhouse.com where you can get squared away today with real people and real services for you. All right, the NIL conversation has been kind of crazy surrounding Oklahoma State. And Heartland Sports just a couple days ago put out an article about how Oklahoma State's basically driving the NIL struggle bus. So we're going to dispel that myth because it's not even anywhere near accurate. But I do want to get to this article because I don't know who Joe Tillery is, but I would assume You probably could have reached out to people and got realistic numbers. For whatever reason, Heartland Sports decided not to do that. All right, check this out. This article says, if you're wondering why Oklahoma State isn't exactly pulling top-tier coaching interest right now, Grant Hughes of 247 Sports just gave the clearest answer you'll get. He ranked the current Power Conference job openings by NIL budget, and Oklahoma State came in second to last in the country. The Cowboys were listed at just $5.3 million, ahead of only Stanford. That puts them behind everyone from LSU to Florida, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, and yes, even UCLA has more juice in the NIL department. For a program that's been in the Big 12 mix for the better part of 2 decades, the numbers should raise eyebrows. Hughes spelled it out. Oklahoma State coaching vacancy would be far more appealing if the Cowboys still had the abundant resources that were available when T. Boone Pickens was alive. What are we doing? Where do we, this $5.3 million, it is public information, but it clearly was from the 2024 season. This season alone, Mike Gundy, before the Oregon game, he mentioned that Oklahoma State only spent $7 million. Just by simple mathematics from a couple of handfuls of individuals, you can put the numbers together and figure out very, very quickly that it's more like 13-ish mil. There have been reports that we got close to 15, but the only person in the world saying that we only spent $7 million was Mike Gundy, and now this Heartland Sports via 247 dude. So we'll continue on here. This is not just a casual jab. In reality, Boone Pickens pumped more than $650 million in Oklahoma State during his lifetime. That included a $165 million gift to the program in 2006, which changed the trajectory. Since his death in 2019, things have gone quiet in the fundraising front, and it's starting to show. The Cowboys have solid facilities and a good brand in the Big 12, but in the NIL era, that's just not enough. Coaches want to know what kind of backing they'll get when it comes to keeping the roster together or go after real difference makers. If you're walking into a rebuild with a middle-of-the-pack budget, you better have a plan. Otherwise, you're just showing up to a gunfight with a pocket knife. Here's the ridiculous part. Mike Gundy saw this coming. He spent most of his final year hinting and at times flat out saying that Oklahoma State wasn't playing the same game anymore. The numbers prove he was right. Whether or not NIL was a reason for his exit, it was definitely part of the tension. Now the Cowboys are on the hunt for a new head coach, and the budget behind the scenes is going to be a big part of the pitch. Tradition still matters, so does history. But if the checkbook can't compete, neither can your program. Do some flipping research. Reach out to some people before you put out an article like this. Like, it's absolutely wild to me that somebody went with a 2024 number, and then they didn't even go with the Mike Gundy number. Like, even if they would have went with Oklahoma State only spent $7 million this year, at least it would be closer to half of what the actual number is. NIL has been a problem for Oklahoma State, but part of it's been because Mike Gundy was reluctant to go do it. Mike Gundy wouldn't go to the banquets. He wouldn't go to the meetings. He wouldn't go to the fancy dinners. He wouldn't go, shake the hands and kiss the babies and politic for more money. That was never something that Mike Gundy was about, which is precisely why Mike Gundy admitted that we didn't play the NIL game until this year. And then this year, we jumped into the NIL game pretty heavily, I might add, and it just didn't work out because we didn't identify the right players. Yes, we paid big boy money. I'm pretty sure a $13 million roster would be in the mid-tier, upper echelon tier of even the SEC, at least what is publicly available. So Oklahoma State was just listed by, ESPN as the 4th best job. So where is this coming from that Oklahoma State's not being able to attract major names? I'm pretty sure every main brand of the country, we're all competing for the John Sumralls and the Alex Goleshes and the Eric Morrises and the Ryan Silverfields and the James Franklins of the world. We're all competing for the same dudes. Yet Oklahoma State is at the very bottom. Comparing Oklahoma State to Stanford is an egregious penalty. I mean, yeah, if you want to go back to 2011, sure. That makes some sense. Andrew Luck was the quarterback then, and he's like the GM now. So, yeah, I guess there could be a correlation here. But I absolutely hate it when a big time, national punditry syndicate, whether it be Heartland or 247, put out this insane statement. Like, why would you even put that out if you know that's not based in reality? It's not too difficult to reach out to some individuals or donors to figure out that Oklahoma State did invest pretty heavily this season, which is why Mike Gundy got fired. If Oklahoma State really only spent $5 million or even $7 million, then Mike Gundy probably doesn't have the same argument, and Oklahoma State's not in the same position. But that's not the problem. The problem is we did finally come up with a decent amount of money, and we paid the wrong dudes for the most part. So it's not a lack of funds. We've still got the Ross McKnights and the Chad McClays and the Greenwoods hanging around, but they've already said they didn't want to really donate heavily to Mike Gundy because they didn't trust that it was going to be handled appropriately. And if you look at how much we spent this season on this particular roster, you can see why there was going to be some reluctancy within the donor base to give more money to Mike Gundy. This is the same Mike Gundy that would pride himself on bragging about how he didn't spend all of the recruiting budget. Like it was some kind of game, like it was a prize to be had. That if you get, let's just call it $1 million, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Let's say that he was given $1 million as a recruiting budget. And he would come back and say, guys, I only spent $650,000. Well, yeah, that's probably why we have the 56th ranked class in the country, too. So part of the article discussed how Mike Gundy was one of the primary culprits to the NIL era at Oklahoma State not going so well, but they refused to acknowledge, or they decided not to acknowledge, that the numbers he's given are nowhere near even in the same hemisphere as accurate. Secondarily, the reason Oklahoma State is listed as a top 4, top 5 job is because they have the tradition, they have the facilities, yeah, sure. But we wouldn't be a top 4 job if we didn't have enough money to be competitive. I will say that Oklahoma State is likely in a position that this hire is of the utmost importance, because now we're getting more donors that want to be involved because they feel like they get to be finally involved in the process. And for the last 21 years, donors were not asked anything for football other than more money. So there was more exclusion than inclusion. That's why you're getting more donors involved. That's why you're getting a lot of these top end names to be interested in Oklahoma State. Like, I just find it insane that there's individuals out here that just write random crap. And then they try to insinuate that Oklahoma State's going to have a really hard time getting a coach because they're just super, super broke. No, Mike Gundy called the fans poor, but our donors are not poor. They just weren't lining up to empty their pockets for Mike Gundy. But there's no mention of that. Yeah, they mentioned the facilities. Yeah, they mentioned the tradition. But they're kind of right. If you have no ability to be competitive in NIL, you're probably not going to be anywhere near successful. But that's not what's happening. And you're going to see it. You're going to see the contracts that come out. We just paid a crap ton of money to get rid of a few coaches. We know after the season, we're going to have to come out with another crap ton load of money to get rid of all the other staff members. Sure, there could be a few couple here and there that we do keep. But by and large, you're talking Oklahoma State's going to spend, what, $30 million just to move on from all of the coaches? And we're probably going to have to spend something comparable to that just to get what we're looking for. That's why I appreciate what Chad Weiberg is doing. They understand that this is a massive hire, because 4 years from now, will Oklahoma State still have these donors excited to give their money away? Not if we don't do anything with it. If we get a new coach and we have 4 losing seasons, then this article probably will have some merit. If we want to retrace this step 4 years from now, 5 years from now, if Oklahoma State hires a new coach and we do not have winning seasons, if we don't have Big 12 title aspirations built in, then, okay, yeah, we're probably in a precarious situation. Because I don't know that 4 or 5 years from now, the donors that are wanting to spend right now are still going to have the desire or ability to pay this amount 4 years from now. I thought it was insane for them to try to portray Oklahoma State as this team that can barely compete with G5s when they probably could have called some people that knew that that's not even close. There's articles about what Oklahoma State spent this season. Matter of fact, there's an article that has us in the 14, 15-ish range, if I recall. But they didn't see none of that. They didn't call anybody. They didn't interview anybody. They didn't do any digging. They just went with what is Googleable and wrote a whole piece on it to basically say that Oklahoma State is too poor to be competitive. I'm here to say that's not even close to accurate. 4 years from now, if this doesn't go right, then yeah, we probably are in that situation. But we're not right now. And it's ridiculous to even insinuate that we're in the struggle bus. You know who's not in the struggle bus? The bee's knees for all of your betting needs. That is FanDuel. And right now, the NBA action is here, and there's not a better place to get in on the action with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you were to miss the start of the game or you wanted to just wait till the end to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to who will lead the fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a much bigger payout. It keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets back when your first $5 hauler is a winner. So head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game your way with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, before we skedaddle on off of here, we got to talk about wrestling as the number 19th ranked Stanford Cardinal with a tree as a mascot and a non-existent band. They bring their talents to Stillwater, Oklahoma. And they're ranked in the top 20 for a reason. The Cowboys should still win this somewhat convincingly. We get to kick it off with a 125-pounder, the spark plug, number 2 in the country, Troy Spratley. Now, Stanford does have number 11 in the country, Nick Provo, who beat Troy just 2 years ago. But there's some up and down whether he's going to be able to wrestle or not. It'll likely be Edwin Sierra if it's not Nick Provo. But if Nico Provo can go, he better go because it might be one of the only wrestling matches that gives Stanford an opportunity in this battle here. 133-pounder, former national champion at 125 pounds for Arizona State. Richard Figueroa is now a Cowboy, ranked number 12 in America, and he will take on number 6 in the country, 2-time All-American Tyler Knox. If Richard Figueroa from 2 years ago shows up, this is probably a dub. If Richard Figueroa from last year shows up, Tyler Knox probably gets this thing done. Now we go to 141 pounds. Unfortunately, Tegan Jamison is hurt, so the true freshman, Sergio Vega, will probably get the call because he did beat Carter Young in the wrestle-off to go against Stanford's Jack Consiglio. 149 pounds, the Iowa State transfer, and former or recent champion, Casey Swiderski's ranked number 2 in the country, going up against number 18 in the country, Aiden Valencia, but that's a little deceptive. Aiden Valencia is really good. He beat Riel Woods twice, and he can score points in bunches. It's just the inconsistency with Aiden Valencia that should give Casey Swiderski the edge here. 157 pounds. Could be Teague Travis, who's ranked number 15 in the country entering the season. But it very well also could be Landon Rubidou going up against an All-American and number 4 in America, Daniel Cardenza. Realistically, regardless of whether it's Teague Travis or Landon Rubidou, it's going to be a tall task to take down Daniel Cardenas. Next, we have unranked D. Lockett, 165 pounds, going after the Iowa native from Stanford, another All-American, ranked number 4 in the country, Hunter Garvin. 174 pounds, we get to see former Penn State Nittany Lion Alex Facundo, who's ranked number 11 in the country, take on number 16, Lorenzo Norman. And Lorenzo Norman almost beat Keegan O'Toole last year. He was up quite a bit, and Keegan had this masterful run to come back and win it at the end. But Lorenzo Norman probably should have won that match. And Keegan O'Toole is obviously a national champion level wrestler. So Alex Facundo is going to have his work cut out for him. Alex Facundo seems to have a little bit of a drop off between folk style and freestyle. So hopefully the NCAA version of it will show up for him in this one. Next, we have our other Penn State Nittany Lion transfer, number 4 in the country, Zach Ryder, taking on Abraham Woj Sick. I can't pronounce that name, but we got Zach Ryder versus Abraham, whatever. Obviously, that should favor Zach Ryder. 197 pounds gets a little bit interesting. It probably could be, maybe should be, number 9 in the country, Cody Merrill. But he did lose in his last ranking match to Ben Mower. So if you're going off of who just won, you gotta let Ben Mower go get it done here. Stanford brings out either Angelo Posada or Brockton Borelli. Most people probably would have assumed that it will be Angelo Posada because he was a very big recruit for them. And Cody Merrill is a massive, massive get for Oklahoma State. He's supposed to be a very, very big deal. That's why he's entering his first year already in the top 10. But you got to give it to Ben Mower. If Ben Mower beat him in the ranking match, you got to at least let Ben Mower start the season taking on Stanford. And truth be told, Angelo Posada or Brockton Borelli, neither one of those individuals should beat Cody Merrill. So why not give it to Ben Mower to see what he can do against those individuals? And then lastly, we have the heavyweight, also number 9 in the country, much like Cody Merrill, Connor Doucette taking on Jackson Mankowski. The fact that Connor has been wrestling with Wyatt Hendrickson for a year and a half now probably should go a long way. There's a lot of conversation in Stillwater about Connor Doucette having a massive season, sliding in somewhat seamlessly from what Wyatt Hendrickson just provided. Does that mean that he's projected to win a natty? No. But it does mean that he's probably foaming at the mouth, chomping at the bit for the day that he gets to take on AJ, the campus friend in Stillwater, Ferrari. All right, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. Oh, and shout out to the Cowgirls who absolutely destroyed Langston. It was like 105-35 or something, like 45. No, it was a whooping. It was a whooping. Hopefully Langston got paid for that one because that just wasn't fair. That wasn't right what we just did to them. On honest to goodness truth. But shout out to JC Hoyt and the Cowgirls. Tomorrow we got wrestling. Sunday we get a doubleheader of Cowboy basketball taking on Texas A&M and the Cowgirls taking on Oral Roberts. It's been a fun-filled week. Hopefully Cowboy wrestling puts up an impressive performance against Stanford, and then we get to roll into the weekend with basketball, both men's and women's. Until then, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you're everything that makes this work. I appreciate what you do. So go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. Alrighty, y'all. Later, taters.